welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down this 8-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content at any point in this video, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. That way you don't miss any new content that I upload. If you're new to the channel, I'll be here all MLB DFS season long, breaking down these MLB DFS slates to help you guys become better MLB DFS players, help you guys win some money night in and night out. And don't forget to stay tuned to the end of the video for my home run call of the day, fan favorite segment on this channel, the guy that I am picking to go deep. Stay tuned to the end of the video for that. And lastly, if you are interested in some premium content, I do offer that. That's linked below in the description. You get access to all the same tools that I use when building my own MLB DFS lineups. Gotten a lot of good feedback on that recently. Some patrons really winning some money, and I always like to hear that. So then you get direct access to me. You can ask me questions all the way up until lock. And I'm working to put some even further systems in place over there to keep improving that package. So looking forward to making that even better as we go along the season here. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the top guy on the slate today, as far as K rate is concerned, is going to be Shohei Ohtani taking on the Detroit Tigers. 32.9% K rate overall, a 13.4 swinging strike rate. Does have a walk issue, but he has a 39.8% K rate against righties and a 27.6% K rate against lefties. Really good stuff across the board, and he's taking on a Detroit Tigers team that strikes out a bunch, as we know, one of our favorite teams to target all the time. And he comes in as a 223 favorite. He's priced at $11K on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they've got him priced at 8-1, so FanDuel's got him priced way up for this one. DraftKings a much friendlier price tag. But with that being said, definitely in a good spot today, taking on this Detroit Tigers team. We definitely like to target them, and he is, going to be, if not the top option on the slate, a very viable one. So, like Shohei Ohtani. Brandon Woodruff taking on the Colorado Rockies. It's in Coors Field, which is obviously not ideal. Worst pitching environment in baseball. 30.3% K rate overall, 30.1% K rate against righties, and a 30.4% K rate against lefties. Woodruff has been really good, but as mentioned, it's in Colorado. If you look at the Vegas lines right now, Colorado does have a 4.73 implied run total against him. I tend to think this is going to be a situation where I might not be all too interested in Woodruff, but at the same time, I'm definitely not going to be playing the Colorado Rockies bats against them, I feel like. So, but I mean, we're talking 89 degrees in Coors Field with 12 mile-an-hour winds blowing out just straightaway center. So this is ridiculously good hitting weather, and it's very difficult to be promoting a guy in that spot. If you were ever going to take a guy, Woodruff could be that guy because he's just that good against both sides of the plate. He does a great job hitting the ball on the ground, all that stuff. Just keep in mind with that thin air out there in Colorado, sometimes that can change the dynamic of a pitcher's stuff, make it not break quite as well as it typically does. And then some of those balls that typically break off the plate might be hung right down the middle for a nice home run or a hit to the gap. So that's kind of what you're dealing with there. Charlie Morton taking on the St. Louis Cardinals, 28.7% K overall, 12.6 swinging strike rate, 25.2% K rate against righties, and a 32.6% K rate against lefties. Guy has been very good over the last 2 years, but this year he's starting to fade a little bit out. I'm a little scared to be targeting him, to be honest with you. As far as the Vegas lines are concerned, the Cardinals do only have a 3.76 implied run total. Charlie Morton comes in at 8-2 on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, they got him priced at 7-2. And looking at his recent performances, last time out, 4 earned runs against a Miami squad that's really not the most talented up and down, only 3 strikeouts. So, starting to think this guy's upside's a little capped. He's making me a little nervous. He's had a few really big games. He had a very good performance against a Boston team. That's not the easiest matchup in the world. He had 9 Ks with 1 earned run, so that's kind of the good Charlie Morton. But then you have Charlie Morton that just took on a weaker opponent in the Miami Marlins and really didn't do much at all. So, feel free to play him if you'd like. I really don't think it's the greatest spot to be targeting the St. Louis Cardinals offense with Charlie Morton. I think there's other options that are better that we've discussed, Shohei Ohtani, and we're going to have other stuff on the slate here. But if you want to go there, you can. I think I'd have more interest in Joe Musgrove taking on the Cincinnati Reds. 26.4% K overall, a 13% swinging strike rate, 27.5% K rate against righties, and a 25.3% K rate against lefties. Taking on a Cincinnati Reds team that is a little bit scary up and down as far as talent's concerned, but they do have their fair share of strikeouts up and down this lineup, and I think that Joe Musgrove could go out there and have a pretty good performance. It's priced at 8-9 on DraftKings, and if you look at his recent performances, he's just been dialed in, really. 10 Ks, 7 Ks the last 2 times out. 3 earned runs in each of those performances, going 5 and 6 innings, and I think there's room for more upside there. So I think that Joe Musgrove's a viable option for sure. We got Rich Hill taking on the Seattle Mariners, a team that we also like to target. We have the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners on this slate, which, as mentioned, these are the guys that we're targeting oftentimes. 25.9% carry overall for Rich Hill, a 26.2% carry against righties, and a 24.6% carry against lefties. Really, really decent across the board. Not the crazy stuff in the world, but then you factor in the opponent, and I think that's when things get really interesting. He's priced at 8.3 on FanDuel. Comes in as a 175 favorite. The Seattle Mariners have a 3.7 implied run total. As far as his price over on DraftKings, he's priced up to 9.2. And looking at his recent performances, he's been doing a pretty good job of limiting runs and limiting the damage. He's had 0 earned runs for 2 straight starts, 2 and 1 earned runs the time before. Last time out, he had 4 earned runs, got pulled a little bit early, only 70 pitches. And the last 3 times out, we've seen him only throw 56, 59, and 70 pitches, which is a little concerning to me. But that's just what you're dealing with when you're dealing with the Rays. So, I mean, he was up to 100 pitches early on in the season. I do tend to think this is a matchup where he could go deeper in the game than what we've seen. Maybe get some pitches in, not quite as scary, not feeling the need to go to that bullpen earlier. So, that would be my breakdown there. Dylan Cease taking on the Houston Astros. I'm really not all too interested in because the Houston Astros just really don't strike out that much. Dylan Cease does have a 27.6% carry against righties, which is very impressive, but he also gives up quite a bit of slugging and not exactly the best lineup to be targeting. German Marquez in Colorado, not the best pitching environment as already mentioned, but he is taking on a Milwaukee squad that does strike out a bunch. He has a 23.5% carry overall, a 26.9% carry against righties, and a 20.4% carry against lefties. He is much more effective against right-handed hitting for sure as far as his stuff's concerned. And when looking at the Milwaukee Brewers lineup up and down, they do have quite a few lefties, so that's a little bit of a concerning thing here. They do have a 5.77 implied run total. One thing I will mention, though, German Marquez is priced at 9K on FanDuel. I have a lot less interest there than I do over on DraftKings because they have him priced all the way down to 5.5, which I think is way too cheap. I get that it's in Colorado, but like as mentioned, Milwaukee strikes out a bunch. This guy's got pretty good stuff for a 5.5 price tag. Like that's just too cheap. So over on DraftKings, if you're running into builds where you feel the need for a really cheap secondary pitcher, I think that he's definitely a bargain over there today for sure. Jose Urquidy taking on the Chicago White Sox is a guy that we continue to see have some really hard contact issues against right-handed hitting. A 5.09 slugging game, and up against lefties, he has been much more effective. He's taking on a Chicago White Sox team today that is, not exactly the most ideal matchup, I would say, because they do have quite a few righties in there. It's pretty blended as far as lefties, too, so it's not like it's the worst lineup in the world, an entire right-handed heavy lineup. They only do have a 4.25 implied run total against him. And maybe he could be in line for some more strikeouts than we would typically see. So maybe looking at him today. We have Marcus Stroman taking on the Chicago Cubbies. And he's probably going to be the last guy that I'm going to be promoting on this slate today. 20.8% carry overall. Good ground ball, fly ball stuff. Really doesn't have the most dominant strikeout stuff, but the ground ball, fly ball stuff is very good against both sides of the plate. And the Chicago Cubs are a team that's been striking out quite a bit. So the fact that he can really control the game, control the pace. He is a 132 favorite. It is in Citi Field in New York, which is a great pitcher's ballpark. Stroman would be the last guy that I'm looking to today, and probably, for lack of a better word, the safest option on the slate, I would say. Ohtani obviously is a great option taking on Detroit, but he does have a walk issue. So his pitch count could climb, and he could be in trouble early on if he's walking people. Realistically, against Detroit, that won't happen. But with Stroman, you really don't have to worry about that, so... if you need someone that you just know is going to be solid rock in your lineup and you fall on him, I think he's definitely a viable option with the top bats that you like on the slate. And with that being said, let's go ahead and switch over to looking at bats. As always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra, skill, interactive ERA. It's a good way of determining how good a pitcher's been in the past and how good he's expected to be in the future. And the worst on the slate is going to be Justin Dunn taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Ground ball, fly ball stuff's terrible. K-rate stuff's terrible. Really not good across the board. Ironically, he does do a pretty good job at limiting slugging to right-handed hitting, however, even though the ground ball, fly ball stuff's really bad, but against lefties is where it gets really, really bad across the board. He's just really incapable of putting the ball past those lefties, so these Tampa Bay Rays lefties are going to be great options today. Brandon Lau, G-Man Choi, Austin Meadows, Joey Wendell, Taylor Walls, Kevin Kiermaier, Brett Phillips, all up and down this lineup. These lefties really going to like them. Then, of course, you can round out your stacks with righties like Randy Arozarena. Guy has a bunch of power, arguably the best bat in the lineup. So if you want to put him in your stack, I wouldn't call you crazy. Just know, realistically, he's probably not going to get the job done against Dunn. It'll probably be against the bullpen behind him, but that's perfectly fine. And let's be honest, when you have a bat that's as talented as Randy Arozarena is, he can definitely take one out of the ballpark regardless of how good Dunn is against righties. So like those lefties today for Tampa Bay. TJ Zook taking on the New York Yankees. This is a guy that was in the majors early on in the season, went back down to AAA, and they're calling him back up to take on this New York Yankees squad today. This has been a Toronto's Blue Jays bullpen that has been terrible all season long, and this guy really hasn't been that great either. They sent him down to AAA. He struggled down there as well. He made 4 appearances, and he posted a 4.37 ERA. So, he was struggling in AAA. Now he's calling him up to the majors. I tend to think the Yankees are in a pretty good spot here. A lot of hard contact, giving up the ground ball, fly ball stuff is pretty good. And he's definitely a lot worse against lefties, which is a little unfortunate because the Yankees lineup is very right-handed heavy. But he does still give up a 464 slugging to those right-handed bats with a 42.6% hard contact rate and only a 15% strikeout rate. And we're dealing with a 46 innings pitch sample size. So ball's going to be put in play a lot, and ball's going to be hit hard. The question is whether they can get it airborne. I would prefer to be seeing a left-handed heavy lineup against him, but I still think that these Yankees are in a really good spot. And then, as mentioned, if they can get him out of the game, the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen just hasn't been good. Unfortunately, it does look like there's 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right, so that's a little bit unideal. But as far as these right-handed hitters are concerned, hitting that ball to left field oftentimes maybe shouldn't affect them too much. DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Gio Urshela, Gary Sanchez has been really hot, Ruth Neto-Thor, Miguel Andujar, Brett Gardner at the bottom order. I definitely think this Yankees stack is a viable one today, taking on Zook. John Gant taking on the Atlanta Braves, another guy that is very splits reliant, has been very good against right-handed hitting. Against lefties is where things get a little bit dicey for him. Still respectable, but those lefties have definitely given him issues. But on the bright side, the Atlanta Braves do have a pretty right-handed heavy lineup, so could be in a good spot to limit some hard contact here. They do still have a 5.24 implied run total, and the Braves have just been one of the best offenses on the year, so it seems like every single time out you could be targeting them. I'm not getting quite as excited to target them tonight. I have to dig into the pitch data a little bit. I actually really liked them last night, but tonight I'm not too sure. Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies, Abraham Almonte, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, up and down the order. If you want to stack them, I wouldn't call you crazy at all. I mean, they have one of the top run totals, the second highest run total on the slate, so obviously they're expected to score runs. For me, in DFS, it's a matter of how they score those runs, and when I see that a guy has a really good ground ball, fly ball rate, and the Braves might hit the ball around the yard, but maybe not quite as many home runs as you'd like to see, and I'm really targeting those home runs, so that would be my disclaimer there. Dylan Cease sticking on the Houston Astros. Ground ball, fly ball stuff for this has been good. The hard contact stuff is respectable, but still does give up a 405 slugging to righties and a 452 slugging to lefties. Honestly, this guy's been giving a lot of hard contact, and he does strike out righties at a much higher clip than lefties, so the lefties on this Houston Astros team, I think, are in a pretty good spot tonight. Michael Brantley, Yordan Alvarez specifically, and then those righties can also be targeting them. Jose Altuve, Ulesky Gurriel, Carlos Correa, Chas McCormick went deep 2 times last night. The bottom of the lineup really went off. Robo Garcia, Miles Straw, Martin Maldonado both went deep last night, so pretty deep Astros lineup, and one that I definitely think you could be targeting tonight against Dylan Cease. Wade Miley taking on the San Diego Padres, a left-handed hurler that does a very good job of keeping the ball on the ground. He does give up a decent amount of slugging to those right-handed bats, so you could target some of these San Diego Padres righties. But the ground ball, fly ball stuff is really, really good, so it's a little scary. They do have a 4.55 implied run total, and they have guys like Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis in the middle of the order, as well as Will Myers and Tommy Pham at the top, that are right-handed hitters that can definitely hit lefties. So, Machado, Tatis, Myers, that stack specifically, if you want to go there, I wouldn't call you crazy whatsoever, but not getting too excited about it, to be honest. Michael King taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Ground ball, fly ball stuff really hasn't been the greatest. He has been doing a decent job of limiting hard contact, but he does give up a 414 slugging to righties and a 429 slugging to lefties. Has been a lot better against righties as far as the ground ball, fly ball stuff is concerned. I really would prefer to target a left-handed heavy lineup against him, but at the same time, Toronto Blue Jays lineup is just absolutely stacked. And I said the same thing about the Yankees lineup. Unfortunately, both these guys, we would prefer to target some left-handed heavy lineups, but they're still giving up hard contact, and both these lineups have a lot of power up and down, so I think this could be one of the best spots on the slate for offense. And it definitely makes sense to be targeting these Toronto Blue Jays tonight. Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Teoscar Hernandez, Randall Grichuk, all up and down this order, and they have a bunch of talent at the bottom of the order as well, and guys like Joe Panik, Gurriel, Cavan Biggio, and Reese McGuire. So then just keep in mind this game's being played in Buffalo in a minor league stadium, so you factor in that as well. That's pretty appealing to be targeting some major league hitters in a minor league stadium. No issues with that. Jose Urquidy taking on the Chicago White Sox. I had mentioned his hard contact issues against righties. He's really, really bad against righties. A 5.09 slugging, giving up 350 WOBA, 45.2% fly ball rate. So the Chicago White Sox righties are definitely going to be viable tonight. They don't have the highest implied run total, only a 4.25 implied run total. But guys like Tim Anderson, Yermin Mercedes, Jose Abreu, Andrew Vaughn, Danny Mendick, those right-handed hitters you could be getting at some low ownership that could really pay off for you because of his hard contact issues. So no issues with that. And then once we get past him, it's pretty clear cut as far as who we're looking to next. Of course, we do have the Coors Field game, so we have to talk about that. German Marquez and Brandon Woodruff. It's just tough because these guys really aren't the worst pitchers in the world. And like, it's in Coors Field. It's 89 degrees. There's 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. It's a ridiculously good hitting environment. So obviously, you got to have interest in these guys. It's just a matter of whether you can fade them or not. I believe it was Monday. I had a big night. I had a top 3 finish, and I did it by fading Coors Field. And it was very, very popular. It was like 40% owned, and the Rockies had Austin Gomber on the bunt, who's one of the best pitchers, in their rotation. And now we have Brandon Woodruff and German Marquez on the bump, which they're really not the worst pitchers in the world. So to me, it's really going to come down to pitch data. I'm going to be digging into some pitch data on these guys, really figuring out if what they have profiles well against these hitters. If they don't really profile all that well, then I might have to jump on the bandwagon as far as Coors Field's concerned. If not, I'm not really looking to go there. And for my patrons, keep an eye on my power rankings and my cheat sheet. That'll kind of answer where I'm at there. Feel free to send me messages, any questions you have. But that's honestly my take here. If these guys weren't as good of pitchers as they were, it would be such an obvious spot. I would be all over this game. But they're not that bad. So, that's what we're dealing with. German Marquez specifically, I will say, is the worst of the two for sure. And when you're breaking down his stuff, he is much worse against left-handed hitters. So, I already mentioned that. But Daniel Vogelbach, Christian Yelich, Omar Narvaez, Jace Peterson, Jackie Bradley in this Milwaukee Brewers lineup might be the way to go, and then fade the Colorado Rockies side. I could see myself ending up there, so we have to keep an eye on that. And then lastly, actually, before I let you guys go and get into the home run pick, I do have to mention, I'm glad that I caught this at the bottom here, this game at 9:38 in the Los Angeles Angels game. The Detroit Tigers will be calling up Matt Manning. He's also been really bad. He's supposedly, one of the top prospects for Detroit, but if you're looking at his numbers in AAA this year, the guy's had an 8.07 ERA. And, that's really bad. It's in AAA, and now he's getting a call-up against this Angels squad tonight. They only have a 5.13 implied run total, and then you have to keep in mind, of course, I mean, what sucks about it is the Angels lineup's watered down. Ohtani's pitching, which sucks because you can't really have him in your stack for a hitter, which is, that's less than ideal. That seems to always happen in these spots where they're in a good spot because he's probably going to be in the lineup, but you're not going to get any points for his hitting stats. So, that's a little unfortunate. But I think that this Matt Manning kid just really doesn't have it yet as far as a major league caliber talent. And then the Detroit Tigers bullpen is terrible as well. So I think this is a great spot for the Angels. Unfortunately, their lineup isn't the most loaded, but Justin Upton, Max Stassi, Jared Walsh at the top of the lineup. Those guys have power. Shohei Ohtani, we can't play, unfortunately, but Jose Iglesias, Taylor Ward, Keen Wong, Juan Lagares, David Fletcher. There's not a lot of power bats, and it's a little unfortunate, but this could be a situation where this lineup hits around a bunch of times against Manning and the bullpen, and they just keep slapping in the gap, and before you know it, they have 20 runs. So definitely had to bring up that spot. And with that being said, before I let you guys go, I got to give you my home run call of the day. Let's get into it. And my home run call of the day today is going to be Jared Walsh taking on Matt Manning in this Detroit Tigers bullpen. I think this Angels offense is definitely in a good spot as mentioned, and specifically Jared Walsh with the most power in this lineup going to definitely love. Don't have any pitch data on Matt Manning making his debut, but as mentioned has been really struggling in AAA, almost an 8.9 ERA. That's not good at all. Now he has to come up and take on a major league lineup, and specifically Jared Walsh with the most power in this lineup, in the 4 spot, in the cleanup spot. If it's not against Matt Manning, you'll have plenty of opportunity against this terrible Detroit Tigers bullpen. I think this lines up for a great spot for him in the Los Angeles Angels Stadium, a stadium that I oftentimes mention isn't the worst hitting environment. It doesn't get the best rep, but there's definitely some home runs to be had. 78 degrees, 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing out the straightaway center. Love this spot for Jared Walsh. Get him in your lineups because he is my home run call of the day. So there you have it, guys. Jared Walsh, get him in your lineups. And that is all from me in this one. If you did enjoy the content, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. Wish you guys all the best of luck tonight, and we will see you in the next one.